Good morning, everyone, and thank you for joining us this morning. We can start now that Mayor Perry has arrived.
You started late. It's 10:01. I was here.
Okay, sorry. I'm sorry. It's my fault. All right. Today we are going to have a presentation by Miss Victoria Hoffman of Beaufort County Recycling Program, and this is a follow-up to our previous conversations about littering. And Miss Victoria, please join us at the podium.
Hello. It's always tricky. I'm like, who do I talk to?
Okay. Yeah. Well, you're being recorded, and so whatever you say can and will be used against you.
Okay, I'm just gonna stop now.
And we'll have it on video, so they'll hear you if you're talking to the microphone,
Okay.
and we'll be polite up here.
Okay. Sounds great.
It's all yours.
So my name is Victoria Hoffman. I am borrowing a presentation from our environmental educator, Valentina Palacio. She typically goes and speaks at events like this and community outreach, schools, to kind of discuss recycling, and not just recycling and solid waste, but stormwater as well. So I've used her presentation so you can use her contact information if you would like for her to come and speak at a similar event, or if you have a community group that you think would be interested. But today we're going to talk about some changes that have recently taken place with the solid waste and recycling program in Beaufort County. We always want to tell people why you should recycle. Not only is it good for the environment, but it creates jobs, we conserve energy, and the biggest factor is we're all sharing the same landfill, and we want to reduce space in that landfill. I don't know about you, but I don't want a new landfill in my backyard. So our biggest incentive to encourage people to not only recycle but reduce waste is to conserve that landfill. So recently we have made some changes with Beaufort County and recycling at our convenience centers, and it's important to note that it is our county convenience centers. Beaufort County does not hold a contract for curbside recycling and collection services, but we're really excited because we've recently changed over our contract. For 15, 20 plus years, we've had a different vendor, and the use of I2 Recycle with Mike Bennett is new for us. So there's been some recent changes, not too many, but what's really exciting is the fact that his facility, or material recovery facility, MRF for short, is located here locally in Hardyville. So all of our materials that we're collecting at our Beaufort County Convenience Center goes to his facility, or some of them. Some he ships directly to market. But you're able to go there and tour the facility, and that's what we're going to be doing on November 15th. And our celebration for America Recycles Day, we are hosting educational talks that you can go online and sign up for, and then also a tour of the MRF. And you can even go behind the line and help sort the recyclables that he receives from our convenience centers, to show you why these standards are in place and how difficult it is whenever you receive contamination. So some of the accepted items here, we always like to say the big five. We do have additional materials that we accept, but the big five that we always want people to remember are plastics 1 and 2, our corrugated cardboard, metal food and beverage cans, glass bottles and jars, and mixed paper. We also put plastic film on here, and we do also accept our bulky metals. Other people call it white goods, and those are your appliances. And then we recycle other items too, but the main things that we want people to realize that we can recycle at the centers are these. There are some restrictions set in place. What you can accept at a materials recovery facility depends on the materials recovery facility. And some are more equipped to handle more items, heavier loads of items, but our MRF accepts what they can because it's a manual sorter. And you can see from the previous slide, manual sorter is exactly what it sounds like. Manual labor sorting the materials. So if it's contaminated, that has to slow down the process of sorting the material and baling it. And so that's why we would like to encourage residents to give us clean items and what it is that we are wanting. So These are our biggest items that contaminate our recycling stream. And I do want to definitely give praise to our residents in Beaufort County. Last month, from our county convenience centers, we only had a 4% rate of contamination. So only 4% of the loads that we received from Beaufort County convenience centers had to be landfilled due to contamination. And that's amazing. In your typical single stream, usually that's a 50% contamination rate. Typically, whenever they receive single stream materials, they have heavy duty materials to sort it. So robots, all types of arms and magnetic waves that they can zap cans and make it magnetic and sort. But that's not what we have in Beaufort County. Anyway, our biggest contaminations are plastic film. So whenever you receive those garbage bags at our centers, we do have a separate area that you can recycle them. Bagged recyclables. I have told my mother-in-law so many times throughout the years, please don't throw that in the recycle bin. She was even at my house and I stopped and took it from her and showed her and dumped it out. It looks like trash. If you're on that sorting line and you see a bag go through, are you going to rip it open and like sort through it? Absolutely not. You're not. It's like, what is it? I Love Lucy. Whenever she's going through the chocolate factory, I always tell people, like, you don't have time to eat the chocolates. You don't have time to sort through the materials. If it's bagged, it looks like trash, it's going to be dumped. Bulky items, it would be great if we could receive these items. Yes, that's a plastic tote bin. However, it's not a number 1 or 2 plastic jug or jar. And then cross-contamination of recycling. So food. If you had a delicious pizza box, we don't want that. It's going to contaminate the rest of the stream. If you've got dip in a spit cup, definitely not. Ew. Please don't put it in the recycle bin. We want clean material. People are touching it. We're having to swish it and bale it. So that's why we say no cross contamination, which is basically food or other materials in the recycling. And unfortunately, these are the 2 centers that are convenience centers that have the most contamination. And we are working with staff on site. Our environmental educator, Valentina, is working towards going out to the centers to educate the residents as they come in. And these are our beautiful new bins. I don't know if you've seen them around town. We painted them bright orange. Not sure if it was a blessing or a curse to have them so highly visible, but if you do see them, our wonderful rerun mascot is on there. And that's how you know that they are bins from our county convenience centers. But we are working towards more contamination prevention at these 2 red centers, is that what we're calling them? All right, so what has changed? We've always accepted plastics 1s and 2s, bottles, jugs, jars. A bit of into what's changed about them, and this isn't causing contamination. So it's really important to point that out. These are preferences from our vendor at I2 and for specific reasons. So he would like for us to remove all the caps from the jars, and that's so we can compress the bales more. So recycling is a commodity. I always like to tell people I love to make wreaths, but if nobody's buying my wreaths, they're sitting in my husband's garage, and then he has to deal with that pile of wreaths. Same with recycling. If we don't have a good commodity, we can't sell it, and then it's piling up. So in order to have a better commodity, to get more money out of our commodities, we ask that these things, so removing the caps helps to squish the loads a bit more, so we're getting a heavier weight on that bale. And then the item of must be larger than a cup and no larger than a gallon is because of that squish rate contamination and, of course, the sorting process. And then you don't want to flatten the material because then it's not looking like a bottle as it moves along the sorting line. And then for higher quality MRFs, if it's crushed like that, it's not going to flow like a plastic bottle would. So there's several reasons why you don't want to crush things. And these are our commonly found items. The cartons that you receive your strawberries or blueberries in, plastic bags, the single-use plastics, cups, and then like the little yogurt containers. Remember, that's not an 8-ounce container, so we really don't want that in our stream. And then corrugated cardboard. Woohoo for Amazon, but it's also created a pileup with our cardboard. That's one of the biggest things that we are dealing with on Defusky Island. People ship stuff in, and then we have to ship that material back out. For corrugated cardboard, we like for you to flatten it. It just helps us decrease the hauls from our centers. That's one of the biggest costs, is to haul the material from our center to the vendor. So if you flatten it prior to it getting into the compactor, it helps us to make sure that the loads leaving our centers are full and has max amount of weight. And then, of course, we want it to be clean and dry, and then remove all the excess stuff and recycle it in a different area, like the packing pillows and different things that come in there. And again, contamination. It's so great that you had a wonderful takeout meal, but we don't want it in our recycling stream. It has contamination. So just like if you touch it, it gets on your hand. If that touches other recycling materials, it's contaminating them. And then, of course, wet boxes and metal food and beverage cans. We've always accepted these, both steel and tin. We just like for you to rinse out any residue and then don't crush. And for the same reasons, not crushing them, it looks like a piece of trash. It's not going to be sorted correctly. And then, of course, to rinse it out because it's going to cause contamination. And some of the biggest items is receiving scrap metal in our aluminum and tin. Is something we receive a lot. Of course, the crush cans and then the paint cans. We have separate areas for each of these commodities at our centers. And then glass bottles and jars. We've always accepted this material. The only changes we've made, which this has actually been implemented before now, but we've always asked for you to remove the caps because you are then mingling two different commodities. And at the centers, we source separate. So if you have a glass jar and then a metal lid, that's not the same commodity. And this actually material goes straight to the vendor here in Beaufort at Glassworks. And then rinse out the residue. And of course, don't break it, I think, for obvious reasons, if anybody's broken a glass at their house. And then only items that we want to receive are the bottles and jars. If you have a window, that is not going to go in our glass bin. And then contaminants, like I said, we received is just items that aren't bottles, jugs, or jars. We can't accept any broken pottery, dishware, anything like that. And then mixed paper. This is one that we received a lot of feedback from. I too would like for it to be larger than a standard envelope for sorting purposes. It's going to look like trash. It's not easy to sort. And then also, it really can starts to become litter once it is small. So shredded paper, we don't want in our recycle bin. You should either trash or compost that. And then anything smaller than the envelope, just go ahead and trash that. And I was heartbroken about this with my sticky notes, trying to not use them as much anymore. Or I stick them to maybe a piece of paper. I don't know if that's getting around the system, so don't quote me on that. We're on camera, though. It's fine. And then, of course, for it to be clean and dry, and then your paperboard boxes also go in with the paper. It's not that corrugated paper. It's the paperboard boxes that you can stick in with the paper as well as with the newspapers. And some contamination that we receive are books. You can take books in Beaufort County to the libraries. We collect them from the libraries and do ship them off, but they can't be put into our mixed paper bin. And as I said, shredded paper, not accepted in our bin. It really just causes litter, should be composted. And then, of course, the single-use napkins, cups, and receipts are not. Anything with that like plastic coating, we're not wanting in our paper. And then we do accept plastic film. We have the bins, as you can see, at each of the 4 main centers where we do accept recycling, and they can be placed in a separate receptacle. And a lot of grocery stores also accept this, but we would like to encourage residents to use reusable bags because we'd really like to go away from using those single-use plastic bags. And we do have some personnel in the county now. Our Keep Beaufort County Beautiful board is working towards reducing the use of plastic bags in Beaufort County. So hopefully we'll be able to move away from that soon. And here is just a bit about recycling. That's more information about what we're not recycling. This is the Dirty Dozen. This came out through South Carolina, now DES. Not just Beaufort County common, but South Carolina as a state. These are the common contaminants that are found in the recycling stream. So you definitely don't want to put those in your curbside bin or at the county convenience centers. And that is about all I have. I'll go ahead and fast forward to, because I think everybody knows all of this, but fast forwarded to Valentina's contact information. If you would like for this similar presentation, she will go a bit more into the do's and don'ts and 101 of recycling. But if you would like for this or a similar presentation to come to your area about either solid waste or stormwater, Valentina would be a great contact to reach out to, and she can come and speak to a variety of audiences. So, any questions from any of you?
Okay, I'm going to open it up to the board and then the public for any questions. I'm going to ask one question before I turn it over to everyone else. Do you know what is different from what you just presented between Beaufort and Jasper County?
No,
Okay.
I'm not sure
Okay.
what Jasper does.
So anyone from the board have any questions for Ms. Victoria?
I got just one quick one. I know
And please turn your button on, talk into the
buttons
microphone.
on.
I can hear you.
Yes, sir.
You think you're going to get away with it? You're not. We're going to record every word you say.
That's fine. I was just curious, the pictures you had like gallon milk jugs. So if one of us, some of us or whatever don't take the cap off and rinse, nothing can be more contaminated, I don't think, than sour milk. So if the top's not taken off and the jug's not rinsed out, where does it go?
Well, if it's got a half a gallon of milk in it, it's probably just going to contaminate the whole stream.
Right.
But most likely that will still be recycled. So as long as it's not contaminating the majority of the stream, so like a little bit of residue in the bottom of your bin with the cap off, it'll most likely still be sorted and be processed. It's just that load may not be condensed as much because the cap is on.
Right, and that's a more valuable,
Yeah, it's
plastic,
more valuable.
it's-
Yeah, so it gets crazy with plastic. You can sort it all separate, all different ways. So just clear plastic will be a different commodity than the coloreds. But at I2, they commingle it. So it would still be recycled unless your contamination was just profound. So 15% is what they're looking at. In our
thank you.
plants.
Are you having any issues selling the commodities because of changing acceptance levels for contaminants?
So I am so lucky and proud to say that we manage that contract. So if I2 is receiving issues, of course, I'm sure he would tell us like, hey, you're going to receive less of a revenue check this month. But fortunately, I2 handles all of the commodities. So he's really working with the markets. And because he is a private organization, he's able to kind of work with each vendor to get the best price. Whereas at the county, we have to follow procurement processes and can only stick with one or two vendors. The market does fluctuate, but we don't see that issue. I2 really has that on their shoulders to get the best price. But he does relay any information. We're expected to see an increase in our revenues because commodities and certain materials have recently gone up.
What's the, excuse me, what's the lifespan of the landfill?
I can't quote it entirely. I do know that they recently requested for an additional cell and they were approved of that for their permit. So I want to say that increased it by 15 years, but I can't be quoted on that. We're really focusing on diverting the waste and reducing what we send there.
So that kind of brings a question to, not sure you can answer this, but, at the landfill, how are they doing with, the haulers that are bringing in supposedly recyclables that are probably mostly commingled? How is that being viewed, addressed?
Yeah, I'm not sure what Waste Management is doing. I do believe that a majority of vendors take it to their recycling facility, which is basically a transfer station because they don't have a MRF on site. So from what I know, when we were last working with Waste Management, they do haul their materials to Charleston County, and that's a larger MRF. They have really great equipment that can sort better. So that's why we separate it at the centers, because you do get a higher yield whenever it's already source separated and you're taking it to a MRF. But I do know that Waste Management takes their materials to Charleston County, and that MRF is much larger and it has a lot more capabilities to separate that single source material. But yeah, I can't speak on them
Right.
with what they're receiving, but I do know that they were taking their materials to Charleston County, and they have a really great facility. If you haven't toured that, you definitely should go out there and see what they're doing.
On the waste management or the crushing, like a milk bottle, plastic milk bottle, crushing, is that standard through this industry or is it just Buford,
Not to crush that material.
right?
Well, I can't speak on everybody, but it's specifically Beaufort. I too would like for you not to crush that. Typically, a MRF would not like for you to crush materials because of the separating process. So, whenever it goes through the different conveyor belts, depending on what technology they have, if it's crushed, it may not behave like a plastic water bottle should as it travels along that MRF conveyor belt. So typically, you really shouldn't crush it because of how it acts. But just depending on the MRF, like if it's a crushed can, they have like this technology. I won't go too science nerd into it, but they can magnetize materials that aren't. So if it were crushed, it would still be recycled because it's being accepted by that magnet. But it just depends on the MRF, and that's why we really tell residents pay attention to who your vendor is if you have curbside services, because it does change, and that's something that we're looking into in Beaufort County. We would like for Beaufort County to be able to at least oversee all of the materials being collected, so then everybody in Beaufort County can follow those same standards.
Do you collect every week or every other week?
Beaufort County does not have their own hauling fleet, so we don't do any collections. So each municipality has their different vendors who collect materials. I know where I live in City of Beaufort, it is an every other week collection for curbside, but Beaufort County does not operate any of those hauling services. We just oversee our convenience centers.
Okay, do you have a problem with storage of the every 2 weeks? For example, I live in Sun City, and sometimes it's really stretched, and you got to crush milk bottles or the milk containers because it takes up so much room.
So we make sure in my house we recycle a lot, and we flatten all of our cardboard boxes. Any box, we flatten it. And then if our bin is full, you can either potentially ask for a second recycle bin. I know we've done that in the past. Or if my bin at home starts to fill up, luckily I also am a resident and I have a decal, so I can go to my center and recycle materials if our bin fills up. But we try our best to just compress the boxes, the things that can be flattened. And then, of course, not bagging your recyclables also will increase the storage space. But I definitely encourage residents of Beaufort County to use our centers if their curbside bin fills up. And then you can also reach out to the vendor who accepts your curbside to see if you can get a second bin.
Okay. So your centers don't want it crushed.
Correct.
What does Waste Management say? Do they say the same thing? Or do any of your vendors that you use say?
When we used Waste Management, they didn't specify on crush. They were more just ones and twos in the commodities that we accepted. When we went into contract with I2, he had these preferences. So with Waste Management, they didn't specify whether or not they wanted it crushed or whole. But I know with the MRF at Charleston, I don't foresee that being an issue just because of the equipment that they do have that sorts their materials.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Anyone else from the board? I have a couple of questions. The first one, I'd like to introduce Mr. Lenny Sansone, who's the Development Services Coordinator with Jasper County and representing Jasper County administration here today. Lenny, do you know, is there a Victoria in Jasper County?
I know we have refuge centers, kind of like what she described. through the Public Works Department that manages that.
If you could, Lenny, again, because
Certainly, sir.
we're going to hold every statement against
I
you.
was just thinking that
So
it-
we want to make sure you have it on tape, and we'll crucify you later. Okay?
Penny will love doing that. So, I do know we have, the Public Works Department has refuse centers that do sort there's bins, kind of like what she described. She showed the picture of those orange bins on the slideshow. Ours are brown, but, they do have that, available to the public. I think there's, I don't remember the number, and probably 3 or 4 of those throughout the county that have those. I don't know the locations, off the top of my head, though.
Okay, because I know there are some differences, and the reason I ask, I think Jasper County is still keeping lids on, and I have some bottles like Propel. I drink, the cap says recycle with the cap on, so there's there could be a number of differences.
Yeah, I'm not sure what the rules are around the reference. I actually haven't visited some of those centers myself.
Yeah, so it might be helpful that we also have some sort of understanding of Jasper County as well, because we try to do this for both counties, and I know there are some differences.
I definitely think it's good for us to continue to communicate with not only ourselves, but also with the public on what those rules are.
Yeah, and I'm glad you said that, because that was my other comment. Number one, Victoria, what we do is try to get these presentations on the Soloco tab. I know Bluffton, Hardyville, Hilton Head have a Soloco tab. I think this would be very informative to everyone, to have that and alert people to go in and look at it. And that goes to my last comment. This is so informative, and so many people are doing things wrong. I believe. My wife's like you mentioned. I have to pick out when she throws the bag in the garbage, because I'm a fanatical recycler. How do we get to John and Jane Doe in every household some education? And that's, I guess, a challenge for all of us. This is great for us to know, but if the people we serve don't know, we haven't solved anything. And that's what our board is here to do, is to solve these kind of problems.
Absolutely. So we have our education and outreach efforts. We have Valentina, and she is getting into the schools, going into community, just really trying to spread the word. We use our email listserv that we have sent out to all residents. And then also social media is a big platform that we use. But yeah, I think just spreading the word. So definitely sharing Valentina's contact information. And then another big thing that South Carolina DES recently is rolling out with their solid waste department is they would like to see more regional efforts. And so that is why I'm here today, because I'd really like to get in contact with more of our regional partners. DES is about to issue a sizable grant for some sort of a regional partnership. And that's what they would like to see, is for different counties to work together to create something big so these can roll out. So that's actually a grant that's going to be coming out the beginning of 2025. And I want to say it's pretty sizable, a couple $100,000 for that regional partnership that they're looking at. And so that's kind of on our list of to-dos, is to reach out to our regional partners with Jasper, Hampton, Colleton. I think I'm missing one. But to reach out to them and see what we can do to work together to have the same standards, then also increase the diversion rate.
So Lenny and Joey and John, if I could recommend, I think whoever is Jasper County's lead on this, having a conversation between the two counties would be, I think, would be helpful. And John, to throw a little more at you, and Mike, we have regular meetings in front of First Friday and also at Margaritaville. If we could get this presentation in front of these homeowners, I think it would be helpful.
Yeah, absolutely. Reach out to Valentina. She would be more than happy to go out and give this presentation to anybody who would like for her to.
Great.
Harry, I think we need some more information, really, because the town of Bluffton, we provide recycling with the big bins, pick up once every 2 weeks, every other week. Trash is every week. But, just thinking if Waste Management would rather have it crushed, and logistically, I would think if they're going all the way to Charleston, that they would much rather have a compact truck going, with 10 times more weight than it being not crushed. So, and I'm not sure about this, but it's something, if we're gonna try to teach the public, we need to know what the rules are in each specific area, because I'm thinking that there's probably two different worlds here.
Could be.
I think it would be good to have a waste management rep come in and say, this is how they do it at the
Good idea.
landfill, so that those that do get curbside, it's understood that that's how it's done there, and what's acceptable, so.
So we, in Hardyville, we have two contracts. One is with Waste Management in Sun City because it pre-existed, but the rest of the city is with Capital Waste Services, and we go out to bid and get the lowest rate for the entire city. Are there any other companies that we'd like to see besides Waste Management and Capital Waste come in?
Yeah, there's several throughout Beaufort County that collects curbside. So you've got the Waste Management, Capital Waste, Waste Pro,
Waste Pro?
Tropical Trash. There's several.
Okay,
Pro Disposal turned into Coastal. So.
Pro Disposal. If you don't mind, so I don't put you on the spot to have to
Can't think of
recite
there's
everything.
a list of them, but there's
Lenny and Victoria, if you don't mind sending me an email on every waste disposal, and maybe we can have one meeting, we'll get them all in. Because I think this is critical. There's probably so much filling our landfills that we could eliminate if the public is aware of what to do. I think this is a terrific topic and conversation. Can I offer the podium to anyone from the public? Wow, you're letting us off the hook.
that means I did a good job.
That's because, that's right, Victoria. You were so thorough that
so
we have no questions.
Thank you.
Great job, and thank you so much for doing this. I really do appreciate it. I think this will bear fruit. Great. Next, we have one additional speaker today. Mr. Rob Merchant is following up. If you recall, we had talked about the growth boundaries and understanding the region as a whole. And so Rob's going to give us a little bit of an update. Welcome, Rob.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thanks for putting me on the agenda. As you said, everything I say will be held against me, so I'll try to be really brief.
I didn't want to scare you off.
So, as the chairman mentioned, about a year ago, the SoLoco put together a growth subcommittee to look at regional growth and look at some recommendations that may come out of that. And I will say, we had a very successful start of the process, but we've been having some challenges. It being a staff-driven process, I could speak for my, peers in the municipalities, we all have a full plate. And we have put together some information about existing growth, because I think one of the most important thing to be able to get a handle on is what we've already permitted, what our capacity is for future growth based on what is already permitted, and then using that as a starting point for where do we want to grow into the future. And what we're proposing to do, rather than develop a plan at the staff level and bring it to SoLoco, which I think is there's two things that make that difficult. One is just the staff capacity to do that work. The other is that we really believe that there's some important questions that need to be considered, and bringing in the decision makers and stakeholders into that process is going to be key. So what we would like to do is get on a future agenda where, what we're thinking is the January or February timeframe, once we get past the election, and we may have some new faces or we may not. We want to be able to present a snapshot of where we are today with the regional growth issues, and then have a proposal for what we think is the best method to move forward. Some of our discussions have been centering around having something. We recently had a successful workshop on the issue of resiliency, where we had all the stakeholders in the same room, had a facilitator, ask some really tough questions. And I think that that type of model, whether it's one workshop or a series of workshops with a good facilitator who has a handle on the issues, would be a good model for this effort, so that everyone here is at the table asking some tough questions. And then, through that process, I think that we'll have much more buy-in if, hopefully we'll, come to some agreements, compromises about where we would like future growth to be. But that's what we would like to bring forward is kind of snapshot of where we are, what we think would be the best possible path forward, and even looking at what that looks like in terms of funding sources, how we could do that. But I believe that the question of having a shared vision is really important. I think we're going to learn after the next election, either we're going to, have an opportunity because we have additional funds to spend to pay for infrastructure and growth management through preserving lands, or we're going to have a challenge, and we're going to be, it's going to even be much greater, compelling, much greater importance to work with what we have today, whether it's, working with the green space program, or, we're going to have less money for infrastructure if the referendums are unsuccessful, and that just further places importance on this process. So that's about all I have. We want to be able to come back to this board in the January, February timeframe, and be able to present our progress and how we believe we need to move forward. So.
Great, thank you, Rob. Do you have any, or should I just follow up with you? Do you have any preference, January, February?
Well, the only reason originally, we met as a group and thought, well, January, but I don't know whether if we do have some new faces, if you think an extra month for people to get, I realize there's a pretty big learning curve especially to regional planning issues, but either one works for us.
Okay, I'll be contacting the waste companies, so we'll see. So either January, February, one will be one and one will be the other. So I'll work that out with you
Okay.
beforehand, okay? All right.
We'll be ready either case.
Board, anyone have any questions for Rob? I think it is wise to wait to see what the referendum. We'll have a clearer picture of what our challenges are for the future. I'd like to offer the public to come forward if you have any comments or questions for Rob. Thank you.
Okay. Well, thank you. And I was excited to learn today I don't have to peel labels off bottles and cans.
Yeah.
I live in Port Royal, and I think for a while we were asked to do that. And, oh, okay. So it's a practical joke. Okay.
Yeah.
right.
Have someone check his recycle bin,
Yeah.
Van.
I sort through all the wine bottles.
Next month, I had been asked a couple months ago for that Rich Goff come and talk for representing TCL, and I assume it's about the Workforce Training Center. Rich's wife is having some serious health issues, and I spoke to Mary Lee Carnes last night, and if Rich doesn't join us, it will be Mary Lee. And also Joe Passman asked for a couple of minutes to offer suggestions for 2025 agenda items. So if that's okay with the board, or if the board has any other suggestions for, alternative suggestions for November.
I would like to see conservation as a area situation. Jasper and Beaufort have to work together, especially now.
Well, I think, as Rob said, John, we'll have a clearer path with that after November 5th.
I will have a path for that, but I still think whatever happens, we still.
No, I'm not saying, yeah,
I just-
after the election.
After
we'll
the
do it.
election, but I just think we should put that on the agenda.
Okay,
Also, sometime during the year, at the beginning, maybe get like LAPS in here and LCOG, and brief everybody, the new people, if there's any new people on here, depending on how the elections go. An update on them so they can come up to speed.
okay. So we have a lot of suggestions already for the beginning of next year. Just two more items. First of all, I'd like to acknowledge the fact that this is the last Soloco meeting for Mr. Michael J. Zimbor of Hardyville. He's been here from the beginning of Soloco, and he served Hardyville honorably for the last 9 years. We're all going to miss him. His last day is the 31st, and so thank you, Mike, for your service to Hardyville and to the region, because you've been a big part of this region. So thank you. And speaking of the region, through all fault of my own, our quarterly mayor-manager meeting is Josh Gruber's first day, and we have a staff breakfast to introduce him, and on the same day that we were planning to have a meeting here in Hardyville. So,
Is that just a slam on us?
no, it's a slam on me. I screwed up.
What I got is we're not invited.
That's what I got too.
Oh, okay. I'll have to go back to the videotape and see how I phrased that. Obviously wrong. But at any rate, the mayor-manager meeting will not happen November 4th. And speaking to a few beforehand, Mr. Mayor Perry, is the 1st of January okay?
I think I
Or
can get through the
the first.
holidays without having to be with you more, so I think it's okay.
Does this mean
We do love each other, y'all, just so you know.
Does this mean I'm not invited to Thanksgiving dinner at the Perry House?
Well, we will be in Jasper County,
Oh, okay. Well,
so come on over.
Dreamscape?
We'll be on Nose Island.
okay. Before we close, does anyone else have anything to offer, either the board or the public? Yes, ma'am.
You need Johnny to come.
Oh, absolutely. Nobody gets off.
Good morning. Taylor Ladd, I'm the planning manager for Beaufort Jasper Water and Sewer. And I just want to say that recently I was invited to participate in a stakeholder meeting with the Parks and Rec Master Plan, the consultant who's working on the Parks and Rec Master Plan for Jasper County. And I was very impressed, very good team. And also, I do have a Parks and Rec background, so when I say that this is a great consultant and it's an incredible effort as the first ever Parks and Rec Master Plan for Jasper County, I hope you guys will invite someone who's a representative of that organization who's working on this or Jasper County to come in and speak to you about it. So I look forward to seeing what the results are, and I think it's a very good project and beneficial for the region as well as discussions on growth in Jasper County.
And thank you for that suggestion. I think whatever ways we can include regional conversations that are truly regional, meaning having Jasper and Beaufort County part of the conversation, is one of the goals of this board from the very beginning. So thank you for that suggestion.
Absolutely. And as a planning manager for a utility, it was really nice invitation for them to include us in the discussion.
And the other suggestion that we will follow up as mayors. Mayor Cromer has some suggested follow-ups to review the last two hurricanes and what our utilities. I'll let Mr. Cromer say it.
To see with the ISPs.
So that's something we may be inviting particularly the internet providers to come in a future agenda. So, anyone else? Lenny, I'm sorry.
Just want to thank you for bringing that up about that. I'm really close to that project that you just mentioned. And I actually was thinking about, I think you were asking for agenda items. I think one area that I think would be good for this board to review is a communication around Parks and Recreation and developing kind of a regional conversation as to how Beaufort and Jasper coordinate with their parks and recreation facilities, because we do share two ends of the rivers and stuff. And I think it would be good to understand, kind of how we can collaborate on that as well.
Terrific. I think it's a great idea. Thank you. Anyone else? Okay, in that case, have a wonderful rest of the week. Enjoy, go out and vote. The early voting has started, and that's it. Thank you.